redefining co-working.
Exceptional offices for every business.
This summer, eSpaces expands with 2 premier locations.
Cool Springs at Corporate Center and Brentwood at City Park.
Explore the private offices, team suites, and fully equipped meeting rooms.
Limited spaces are available.
Schedule your private tour now at eSpaces.com and be sure to check out all 15 locations at eSpaces.com.
That's eSpaces.com.
eSpaces.com.
Almost nothing the Cowboys can do can justify trading Micah Parsons. They would have to go out like they did in the Herschel Walker trade and get, Emmitt Smith out of that deal, get Russell Maryland, Kevin Smith, Darren Woodson, those type of players out of this trade. And I just don't see that happening because primarily Jimmy Johnson's no longer here to make those picks.
Strong take from Ed.
And it's Thanksgiving Day, away from our families. We get on our bus, and there was just a big tin thing full of fried chicken. Nothing, just fried chicken. I thought maybe even a room with some turkey in it.
No, blaming Jerry.
Well, Jerry's in charge.
Yes, yeah, but
Jerry's very hands-on.
He doesn't have time to check on your chicken.
Does Jerry Jones define success as a Super Bowl win or the Cowboys being the most talked about relevant team in the NFL? Because I think you could make an argument it's the latter.
He always says, you can't imagine the size of the check I would write to win another Super Bowl. And my answer to that, what if what's required to win a Super Bowl is you relinquishing the general manager's title and responsibility and hiring someone to do that? He'll never do that.
The Try That in a Small Town podcast begins now.
All right, we're back. This is a Try That in a Small Town podcast. Woo. Give it to me. It's like Christmas vacation.
Can't wait. I love this guy.
TK, Kalo, Thrash. Yeah, it's going to be fun today.
And do.
It's football season, right? And so
yes.
Because of that, Tully was just talking about it. We have been friends with Ed Werder for a long time. If you don't know the name Ed Werder, you should. Longtime Cowboys reporter, journalist, been on ESPN since 90-something. He is all things football, and he is definitely all things definitive Cowboys.
Really great guy.
And just a superhuman being.
He comes out to shows, hang out, we talk some football. He loves music, loves the songwriting process, always asks about it. And he's just one of those guys that you like having around. He's just really appreciative, and we like talking football, and he indulges us in our...
I know, he's great. And he is a super fan of songwriting. I remember talking to him. He is just fascinated with the process, and I wonder maybe because of his craft too. He's a storyteller, old print style. You have to tell a story, and so I think he appreciates that craft. He's going to be fun.
But I wish we could come up with songs as quick as he comes up with his 3 or 4 minute answer to every question, or when he's live on TV. Could you imagine having to write a song live?
He's sharp.
He says I think he thinks we can come up with that stuff in 3 minutes.
Right.
But no, some of them take.
And plus, he's probably
3 years.
About his job is that everybody probably sees what he writes, and hardly anybody sees the other 500 songs you write. They don't hear those.
That's true. That's
interesting.
True. Probably better percentage for
his
sure.
Success ratio is a lot higher, isn't it? Yeah.
And we're going to definitely ask him about. I don't know. Have you guys watched the Netflix docuseries?
So good.
Just started it.
I'm on episode 6.
I'm on episode 2. I thought it was just a documentary, and I was going to knock it out this morning.
Yeah.
But it's not.
It's
I'm
fascinating.
I'm going to finish it.
Fascinating.
It really is. I mean, I love, I found, Netflix, a lot of those great sports things go on there, like the comeback of the Red Sox thing and this thing with the Cowboys. I love that. I mean, I love those.
Yeah.
Especially going back, because what I loved about it was back in those days, of course, no social media. So you heard some of those stories, but then you
didn't hear some of those stories.
That's what I mean. Like you didn't, a lot of that it's on to the game, or it's on to the next week, and it's in the newspaper cycle, or I don't know. It's just kind of cool to look at it now.
Yeah, Ed's featured all over that thing. And,
really funny.
He's part of breaking the biggest story in sports, which is kind of a funny story. We'll let him tell that. Yeah. God, thinking of that, they were talking about the White House. Have you gotten to that?
Oh boy,
Not there yet.
I'm not talking about the one in D.C. either.
No,
A lot of people got in trouble, right?
Yes, I did.
that
Yes,
Michael
I did.
Irvin had.
Oh,
and
yeah,
it was
yeah.
right next to the complex.
Yes.
Basically where they had their parties.
What they call that complex? What was it called?
The White House.
No. The one it was next to.
Oh, Valley Ranch?
Valley Ranch.
Yeah.
Valley Ranch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have seen that.
I mean,
That's just
but
rock and roll. All that
couldn't
is
have survived
it's just
social
rock and
media.
roll. That's
Yeah.
No,
just,
that could not. No,
No.
that's not making it past the DMs.
Let's not waste any more time. We got to get Ed on here to talk about this stuff. This is going to be fun. Ed, thanks for being here, bud.
Thank you, brother.
Hey, thanks for the invitation. I appreciate it.
Hey, anything going on in Cowboys world? Nothing, right?
No, I mean, they're just getting ready to open their season against the defending Super Bowl champion Eagles. Just kind of, making a few minor personnel moves here and there to deal with the end of the roster. Maybe get some guys on special teams up. But, other than Micah Parsons being traded, that's it.
Yeah. Hey, so just so you know, this will probably air in about a week, so we'll probably be a game in when this does air, but we can't not talk about it. I'm sure you've talked about it ad nauseum down there, but we haven't. Give us your thoughts on the Micah Parsons trade. Are you ripping him, or are you okay with it?
Well, I came here in 1989 to cover the Cowboys, the first year that Jerry Jones owned the franchise. It's when they made the Herschel Walker trade, which was a bigger trade than this. That being said, I cannot recall in all that time Jerry Jones and the Cowboys making a more consequential trade in terms of moving on from a great player early in his career at a position of huge importance like this. Like Herschel Walker was older. He played in the USFL. He wasn't really just beginning his prime years as a running back like Micah Parsons seems to be now at age 26 and being one of the elite pass rushers in all of football. And I don't think it's as consequential because the Cowboys didn't get as much back. They got 3 first-round picks and players from the Vikings for Herschel. And the biggest thing, ultimately, this trade's going to be judged on not only whether, Micah Parsons fulfills his if he's on a Hall of Fame trajectory, if he finishes his career as that kind of player, a transcendent player, and transforms the Packers into a Super Bowl champion, then almost nothing the Cowboys can do can justify trading Micah Parsons. They would have to go out like they did in the Herschel Walker trade and get, Emmitt Smith out of that deal, get Russell Maryland, Kevin Smith, Darren Woodson, those type of players out of this trade. And I just don't see that happening, because primarily Jimmy Johnson's no longer here to make those picks.
Strong take from Ed.
God, Ed, I just love hearing your voice. And there's so much we want to talk about, but we'll get back to that. But I just want to, we met you a few years ago. You came out to a couple shows. Big music fan. We love having you out, first and foremost. You're a great fan and a great friend to us, so thanks for coming out and supporting us. But every football season, me and Kurt were like, we got to check in with Ed. and when the Parsons trade happened, I said, we have to get Ed on now. The trade and then the really great Netflix Cowboy special, the series that you're on a lot, which I think that's fantastic and you're amazing in it. But so I'll go back to the Parsons thing real quick. So the vibe in Dallas is that it has to be very unpopular. I mean, I would think, it feels like it is. There's a lot of question marks around it,
A week later, the fan base seems to have turned its attention toward the beginning of the season. It's interesting because of the dynamic that the fan base has really turned against Jerry Jones and the Jones family. They're tired of, 30 years of not getting to the NFC Championship game, much less a Super Bowl. They've had these 3 teams during the Mike McCarthy coaching era where they won 12 games 3 years in a row and did nothing in the playoffs. The only team in history to win that many games and not at least reach a championship game. And so the fan base is really conflicted here because they hate what the front office has done. They don't like Jerry Jones being the general manager. And at the same time, they're not really that into Micah Parsons either, because while he's been a great player, again, they've achieved nothing in the postseason since he's been here. And it's almost like they view him as sort of the defensive equivalent of Dak Prescott, right? A guy who puts up dominant numbers at his individual position during the regular season, and then can't elevate his game in the postseason against the better teams in the league and in the playoffs when it really matters. And so I think fans are sort of torn as to, how they feel about this whole thing, other than I think they're ready to just move on from it and play the games. Now, I think not having Micah Parsons greatly compromises what this team is capable of this season. They're already starting, as the third best team in their own division, because two of the other teams, Philadelphia, which won the Super Bowl, and Washington, which has Jaden Daniels, they went on to play the NFC Championship game last year. So the Cowboys are clearly starting the season third in their division, with or without Parsons. And, they didn't have a great season. They were horrible last year on defense, even with Parsons, which, does that mean they're going to be worse this year, or does that justify what Jerry did?
Mm-hmm. Ed, you're just like Yoda. You're like football Dallas Yoda.
That's fair. Hey, Tully mentioned the docuseries America's Team, and there's a bunch that we want to ask you about that. But the one thing that I want to start with, I was thinking about us. We've all been to like a bunch of number one parties for songwriters. And when you do these parties, all the writers get a chance to speak. And then somebody says something how the song was created, and you kind of look over and go, that ain't how it was. And I was wondering, if you watch that docuseries and you see it all play out and everybody's take, and somebody says, oh, this is how it went, you're like, I don't remember it that way. Was there any moments like that?
Well, first of all, you mentioned songwriting, and, I'm amazed by the brilliance of songwriters.
Go on.
I don't know how. as you've seen, it takes me 4 minutes to answer the most basic question. And you guys tell somebody's entire life story in 3 minutes or less most of the time. So I think what you guys do is truly amazing. I'll never forget that one of the times I came out to the show was out in Frisco, Texas, and I walked in. I'd just been laid off by ESPN in 2017, and Jason says to me, "What the F is ESPN thinking?" So I appreciated that. And then you guys also introduced me to Banana Ball. I didn't know anything about the Savannah Bananas until I saw you guys at Backstage Dallas watching it while waiting for the show to start. But anyway, so the documentary, it was interesting. I'm glad I was a part of it. I used language I would probably prefer not be associated with me, but I used the F-bomb quoting Jerry directly, which I thought was important. I tried to use the abbreviation, but the Netflix people just weren't having it. They insisted that I say the word, and so I did. And but one of my motivations for doing it was I'd been told by the producers that on the night when I was in the bar and Jerry stopped me and insisted on telling me he was going to fire Jimmy Johnson repeatedly, and it led to the end of their partnership within a week, that Jerry was claiming that some of the things we used in that story in the newspaper 30 years ago was off the record material. And so I felt it was important to be there to testify, sort of add my testimony and make sure that part of the story was accurately told. I think for the most part, everything was accurately told. I think it's just so interesting that all these years later, Jimmy Johnson still hasn't gotten over Jerry saying 500 guys could coach this team and win, and Jerry hasn't gotten over that Jimmy denied him any credit for the Herschel Walker trade.
You know what goes great with small town stories?
Original Glory, America's beer right here.
I've been drinking this every songwriting session today.
Man, that clean, crisp taste reminds me of summer nights on the back porch after a fresh mowed lawn.
And they're just not making great beer. They're investing in America's small towns.
Well, it's just like us. They believe in bringing communities together.
Not only do they invest in communities, but a portion of each sale goes to the veterans and the first responders and all the heroes that protect us.
For a limited time, you can become a member of the OG fam and invest in this beer at wefunder.com/original brands.
Join our Original Glory family and help ignite that Original Glory spirit.
My name is Glenn Story. I'm the founder and CEO of Patriot Mobile. And then we have 4 principles. First Amendment, Second Amendment, right to life, military and first responders. If you have a place to go put your money, you always want to put it with somebody that's like-minded.
Of course.
I think that's the beauty of Patriot Mobile. We're a conservative alternative.
Don't get fooled by other providers pretending to share your values or have the same coverage. Go to patriotmobile.com/smalltown to get a free month of service when you use the offer code SMALLTOWN or call 972-PATRIOT.
Let's go back to you talking about how great we are as songwriters.
That was really
hard to find those people that show up here on your show, huh?
Hey, go ahead, Kayla.
Oh, I was just curious, like on the songwriting front, like have you ever pursued that or fooled around with it? Or are you just interested in writing or just appreciate the craft?
Yeah, I totally respect the craft. I would love to know the secrets to it, if there is any such thing. But the thing that amazes me the most, beyond what I already said about how you can condense somebody's life story into 3 verses, is how you, in most cases, from my understanding, you actually do the music first and then put the lyrics together, which I can't imagine how you do that.
Well, I mean, there's really no rhyme or reason.
I just like to be like Tully and just get a guitar and jump around. I was interested in music.
Yeah, that happens
my
too.
Parents, my parents got me a guitar one year for Christmas, and I looked at it and I'm like, Dad, I'm left-handed. And so and this is a guitar for a right-hander, so he just takes it and turns it around the other way. There you go, I fixed your problem.
Wow, that's awesome.
Hey, so as I watched that docuseries, this kept coming to my mind, and I thought this before, but as I'm watching it, I can't stop thinking about it. Does Jerry Jones define success as a Super Bowl win or the Cowboys being the most talked about relevant team in the NFL? Because I think you could make an argument it's the latter.
Right.
I think it's interesting that in this documentary and many times before, and certainly I expect him to say it again going forward, he always says, you can't imagine the size of the check I would write to win another Super Bowl. And my answer to that, like I think some of the players in that period would say, but what if that's not what's required to win a Super Bowl? What if what's required to win a Super Bowl is you relinquishing the general manager's title and responsibility and hiring someone to do that? He'll never do that. And so I don't think it's accurate for him to say, I'd do anything to win another Super Bowl, because he clearly won't. He might spend a lot of money to win another Super Bowl, but he won't give up being the general manager. He, told us at the end of last season following a game that people asked me when I bought the franchise, did I buy this as an investment? Did I buy it for something to leave for my kids? And he said, no, I bought it for the job opportunity it presented for me. In other words, I'm going to be the lifetime general manager, and the results of my performance have nothing to do with it. Everybody else in the organization is judged on their performance, except for the general manager and anybody else named Jones. But I do think Jerry likes being prominent in the headlines, and he said, hey, when it gets quiet around here, when it's dull, I like to stir it up. And that's what he does. And that's why there's a documentary like this. Most franchises would never want this done. But he loves that. Do I think he wants to win? Yeah. I think he's committed to winning to the point I just said. I think he'd pay anything. I think he'll make any move he thinks would be in the interest of winning, although I think he just made one that contradicts that statement. And partly because I think he got personal about it and let his money get mad. But I think he's committed. I think he wants to win another Super Bowl. He's 82. He doesn't really have time to waste. But you would never know that based on the results of the way this team has played.
When he told at the party that night, I meant to ask you earlier, when he told you he was going to fire Jimmy, did you think he was joking at first? Like did I just hear that right, or did when he first said that, or what, did you know that holy shit he's serious?
And Ed, this is to let people know, this is the biggest sports story who knows? It really could be of all time in the NFL. This was a massive, massive story. But I'm with Tully. Did you think that was a joke?
Well, so to put it in some kind of context here, the Cowboys had won back-to-back Super Bowls. They were a prominent, rising young team that seemed capable of winning several more, or at least contending for several more Super Bowl titles. They'd already won 2 in a row. And we had seen some indications that there was some level of jealousy between the two. Jerry got really mad when the week they were going, the final week of the 92 season, they were, I guess it was the 92 season, they were going to play the Giants to try and win the division on the last day of the season. And Jimmy was asked about Jacksonville, Wayne Weaver, the new owner of the expansion team, being interested in potentially hiring Jimmy. And Jimmy said he would be intrigued. And Jerry thought that was an obvious public indication of disloyalty. And so I went up to Jerry. That next time I saw Jerry was at the game that day. And I went up to Jerry in the press box and I said, Jerry, I know what you said. I know that you're upset about this, but what if Jimmy won you another Super Bowl? Would you maybe then relent and let him out of his contract? And Jerry said, what if he won me another Super Bowl? What if I won him another Super Bowl? And so you combine all of that with you're walking out of the bar at the owners' meetings, and Jerry grabs you by the pants leg and says, don't leave now. And I say, why not? He says, you're going to miss the story of the year. What's the story of the year? I'm going to fire that MF Jimmy Johnson.
Come on, Ed, you got to say the word. You got to say the word, Ed.
I think you have higher standards. Despite appearances to the contrary, I've heard you have higher standards. And so, the intensity with which he said it repeatedly, was really the only point he was trying to make. My biggest concern was there's 2 other writers here who are just here because the free beer hasn't run out, and I got to get rid of them to protect the story. But I did think that this would blow over and that Jimmy left the meetings, put it on the record for us so we could report it, and then left the meetings for emphasis and just kind of wanted Jerry to twist in the wind for a while. But I went to Emmitt Smith's football camp in Pensacola, was my next assignment 3 days later. And when I saw Jimmy at the airport that day, he was madder than when he got in his Corvette and left the owners' meetings.
Man. That's interesting when you said that there were 2 other reporters there and they were hearing the same thing, and you're like, all right, I got to get rid of these guys so you can have the story. It's the same thing with us. Like if we're at a party or a bar or anybody and somebody's having a normal conversation and they're generally not even a songwriter, they'll just say something and you'll think, oh God, I hope nobody else recognizes that's a hit idea. I love that idea. And you're just kind of looking around, you're putting your phone real quick, that's funny.
So then Switzer comes in, which is completely different vibe, right? From Jimmy. But watching the documentary, it seemed like all the players really like playing for him. Is that the case? Was that it around there? Like they seem to really love him.
Well, Jerry made the statement that offended Jimmy and said 500 coaches could win Super Bowls with this team and its talent. And so almost to prove the point, he didn't go and hire the next most likely guy to win a Super Bowl. He went and hired the guy who was least likely among that 500, right? He hires Barry Switzer, who's been retired from Oklahoma for 5 years. He's totally happy with life in Norman, Oklahoma, being retired. Never had any ambition on coaching in the NFL, much less inheriting a 2-time Super Bowl winning team. But ultimately, it was like too good an opportunity. And the thing Switzer has said to me is, hey, you got to give me credit. At least I didn't screw it up. Somebody else might have screwed it up. I didn't screw it up. And this, Jimmy was very hard on the players. And some of those guys like Troy and Emmett, Michael, early in their careers, they experienced 3-13 and 1-15. And so they only knew one way to win, and it was Jimmy's way. And so, I would say the players who were not ultra competitive, who weren't driven, who didn't have the greatest work ethics, those guys embraced Switzer and, the easier lifestyle he provided on the practice fields. He wasn't as demanding, but it bothered guys like Aikman. And Aikman then felt like, now I can't just be the starting quarterback. Now I've got to assume the role Jimmy had here as a head coach, and I've got to be, the guy who kicks everybody's ass. And I've got to be the guy who holds everybody to the standard. And that created problems. He had played with Switzer. Switzer recruited him to Oklahoma, and he broke his leg against Miami. And Switzer actually helped him get to UCLA, called Terry Donahue. So Aikman had a very favorable opinion of Switzer and told us, hey, you guys are going to like this guy. And we did. He was great headlines. He was quite a character. But Troy was surprised, I think, in a short space of time with just how much Barry had lost his competitive edge in those 5 years.
Wow. You mentioned Troy, and, we're lucky enough to know him a little bit, but it was fascinating watching his part in this docuseries. And one of the things I didn't know was, I guess, after the third season, when he got hurt and the Cowboys went on that run, they got into the playoffs, he could have started, but Jimmy chose Steve Berline instead, that he asked his agent to explore a trade. I actually didn't remember that. Was that a big deal? Did it go very far? Or can you talk? And the relationship he had with Jimmy was fascinating, I thought, and how they finally got to a point where they understood each other. But I didn't remember the trade request. Did that ever become public?
It wasn't really widely reported early in his career. And I thought, if you asked me, which you didn't, but I'm going to tell you because that's how I do it. The storyline to me that wasn't represented by this documentary that should have been, and I think Jerry Jones has made this point too in some interviews, is the Steve Walsh acquisition.
Yes.
Remember, the Cowboys drafted Troy Aikman first overall in April. And a few weeks later came the supplemental draft. And Jerry reached out to Troy and said, hey, Troy, we might exercise a pick in this draft. We might draft a quarterback. We might take Tim Rosenbaum from Washington State. And Aikman was fine with that. And Jerry said, for the purpose of trading. And Troy was fine with that. But he wasn't fine with being told that and have him draft Steve Walsh, who had just won a national championship for Jimmy Johnson and so many of the Miami coaches he brought with him to Dallas. And so Troy felt, he lost trust in those two right almost from the start. And then to have that experience with, Steve Berline where, hey, we're finally competitive. I get hurt. I assume I'm getting my job back when I'm healthy because I'm the franchise quarterback. And they stay with Steve Berline. Yeah, I think those two things really eroded whatever trust there was. And, I think at the time, Jimmy wasn't convinced Troy Aikman was going to be a Super Bowl winning quarterback. I mean, he never believed until he actually saw him do it that he was going to be a Dan Marino-like figure in the NFL among quarterbacks. Not statistically, but in terms of being a dominant player who could challenge for championships, on an annual basis, which he proved capable of.
I mean, speaking of Aikman, one thing that stood out in that, the hits that he took.
Oh, my God.
And, playing through that, you forget, that era of football. I mean, watching it, man, he got just crushed and just kept rolling. Doesn't remember the game, which I thought was really crazy. Just to think about that, what do you say? 9 concussions? Was it more than that? It was more than that. I think.
Yeah,
it was in the teens, maybe.
And I think the public perception is that Troy retired because of the accumulation of the concussions, and that sometimes he would be twice concussed with a single hit. He'd get hit and he'd be concussed, and then because of the injury history, he would sort of black out momentarily and couldn't protect himself when he hit the ground, and so then he might suffer another brain injury hitting the ground. But Troy will tell you that it was really his back that drove him out of the game when it did. That and Jerry, Jerry's personnel move. But yeah, I think people forget that in the '93 game, and I remember he got hurt, concussed. He got hit by Dana Stubblefield in something he described as not looking terribly violent. And, Bernie Kosar actually came in and finished the game as the backup quarterback. Aikman went to the hospital. They had to black out his entire room. And he described, as you said, going back the next day and watching the game on tape, didn't remember playing in the game at all. All he remembered was a pregame fight. And so my thought was, well, that year there wasn't an extra week between the Super Bowl and championship game. Under today's concussion protocols, I'm almost sure Aikman would not have been allowed to play in that second Super Bowl in Atlanta when they beat Buffalo.
Yeah. It's crazy. And I tell you this, that guy, we did a benefit thing at his house in Dallas. We went down with Aldine and did like an acoustic setup
in his garage.
In his
You know what I
garage.
remember about? You know what I remember about that? I didn't get invited by either one of you.
You were on the list. But we go and Troy's so great anyway. But I remember we showed up.
Yeah,
we
he
showed
is.
up early, and I'm just like walking through the house. You know, I'm like exploring his house, and I look through the like glass, and he's in his gym working out, and I'm like, that dude. I tell you what, could play. He looks like he could play right now.
Yeah.
I mean, he was working out. I'm like, man, that is intimidating. I mean, I have not seen
He'll tell you he's
biceps
in the
that
best
big
shape
since
of
mine.
his life right now. Yeah, he would tell you he's in the best shape of his life right now at what, age 56 or whatever it is. I mean, I know he goes on these exotic vacations and goes with friends and stuff, and if they go out on a boat or whatever, it frustrates them that they all have to go to dock because Aikman has to spend 2 hours working out.
Gosh. Super nice guy. Yep.
Hey, Ed, this fascinates me. You're like this incredibly accomplished journalist, reporter, insider. You've been doing it. How many years have you been doing it?
I graduated from college in 1982, and I've been doing it full-time ever since. And I was writing for my college paper, my local hometown paper, before that.
Wow. So talk about this, because obviously the world has changed. The way people digest news is different. It used to be, I mean, you're a news reporter, you used to write for the newspaper. That isn't how people gather information anymore. You've got to be on TV. You got to be a social media presence. How has that been for you, trying to reinvent what you do and stay relevant in those terms?
Well, I had the good fortune to have a nice, career as a print reporter. I covered the Cowboys for the Dallas Morning News for 5 years, and that was during that period of time we've talked about when this documentary was basically shot, the essence of it, when they had all those great teams and characters. And then I switched to television and went to ESPN for 26 years. So I was fortunate to have a career in television as well as print. And and I'm still covering the team on a part-time basis during the season for a local ABC affiliate in Dallas. And I'm fortunate to have that opportunity. But yeah, it is different because, back when I was a writer, it didn't matter what I knew as long as I knew whatever there was to know by 10 o'clock at night, right? Like nobody was going to beat me at 2 p.m. or 3 p.m. or 2:05. But now, you're on the clock all the time. And there's always been a sense when you're covering the Cowboys, with most teams, it's just the local beat guys for the most part. With the Cowboys, it's like everybody thinks they cover the Cowboys. Like every journalist in America and some internationally think they cover the Cowboys beat. And sometimes there are people who aren't even credentialed to games. They don't go to practices. They never talk to the players. So the fact that people don't necessarily distinguish between the credibility of those people and the people who are out there every day and are out there even periodically like I am is frustrating. The fact that they put all media together and don't look at who's accurate and who's not accurate is frustrating. But yeah, it's a totally different thing now where somebody can break news any minute of the day. And it might be the biggest story in sports for 5 minutes, and then there might be a bigger story somehow. I didn't know the Micah Parsons thing was going to happen at 4 o'clock. I found out on social media, basically after I'd finished getting a shower, thinking I was done for the day. So, it's a whole different world now, and I can't imagine what it would have been like if there was social media back in the 90s when the Cowboy players were getting arrested and having the White House escapades that Michael Irvin described.
The White House.
That was the amazing thing to me too, was they got this guy Dennis Pedini who was kind of their fixer. They described him as a fixer, but they called him the inch-high private eye. He was a short guy. And he was the guy who was, he was the guy who got them out of all kinds of jams with the cops and so forth. But, obviously, eventually that didn't work out so well for for Michael Irvin and Eric Williams and some other players.
Man, we need a fixer.
Yeah, big time.
That'd be great.
Well, Ed, I'm a college guy. I'm a college. We didn't have pro sports in Alabama. I'm from Birmingham.
You don't have college sports there either anymore.
It's all pro now.
Nice one.
Sorry, Neil. I love you.
Pro.
Yeah, right. You think Saban's ever crossed Jerry Jones's mind?
Probably not as a head coaching candidate. We've seen Jerry really prefers people he's really familiar with and comfortable with, and I don't think he'd be comfortable with Saban because Saban would take too much attention, demand too much authority, and diminish Jerry's role in a way that
That's the answer right there.
he would prefer to avoid if at all possible.
What about like sideline reporters? So I'd read where it's like 20% of sideline reporters are female, but that's not what I see. It seems like it's a lot more than that. Do you think over the course of time that they will almost be all female?
It kind of seems like that's the domain that they've conquered or been provided. There's a lot of good ones. There are some that I don't think are so great. I've done sideline reporting for Westwood One. I did it for Monday Night Football for a few years, and there's a real art to talking to players before a game and getting interesting anecdotes and relevant information, and then being able to react quickly to an injury, to get it updated, put it in context, and get it back to the play-by-play guy before the next play starts. There's an art to doing that. Not everybody does it well, but there are a lot of people who do it exceptionally well. And I agree with you. It seems like a lot more than 20%.
Yeah, and maybe it's because it's easier for an attractive female to get access to the coach or the players or an injury report than it is a guy.
Well, the thing that's great about being a sideline reporter for one of the broadcast entities is you get access to a number of people privately in the production meetings, right? And so that's a huge benefit. You're not now. Some people I know make calls on their own or set up interviews at the stadium or on the phone the week before through PR or through their own relationships with guys. And the most ambitious do all those things to try to acquire as much good information as possible, not knowing how much, if any of it, will ever be used. But I think there are some who do it journalistically well. I don't think it's great when some of them say, "Oh, I didn't get the coach, so I just made up the report." Like, I think that does a disservice to everybody in our profession, print, radio, TV, regardless of what your role is. We don't make things up, ever. If you don't have anything, say you don't have anything. I told the Westwood One people multiple times, "Hey, I don't have anything on this," So they deal with it. But to say you made things up and embellish things, I think,
boy, it'd be real dangerous. It'd be real dangerous if songwriters got that job, wouldn't it? We'd be making up shit all the time.
I always love it. I always love it at halftime, and the poor coaches and the reporters. Yeah. Where are they getting these questions from? They're down, by 20 points or 21 points, and the reporter's like, "What do you got to do to win?" And the coaches, you can see them just steaming, and they're stuck there. And it's like, I mean, do we really need to do that to the coaches? Yeah. I mean, let them coach the game. What do you want to do differently? What should you do differently?
Well,
I don't know. They ran for 300 yards in the first. Stop the run.
That's the networks building that into their deals, right? Yeah. They're trying to show they get unique access to the people who are making the decisions, even on game day, even in the middle of a game. There's almost never any relevant information exchanged. If you're fortunate and you ask a good question and get somebody who's engaged enough to trust you in that time frame, which is difficult, then you might get an interesting update on an injury, or if they're making a position change at quarterback or something like that. But for the most part, it's minutia, and the viewer, it's of no real benefit to the viewer. It's just, look at us, we get access to this guy.
Hey, Neil brought up college football, and just because you're in Texas, we have to ask, how did Arch Manning conversation go in Texas over the last day or two?
Well, I think Arch Manning he and Kalen DeBoer have sort of been acquitted by what happened to Bill Belichick last night.
He stole it.
The focus on those two guys ended last night when Bill Belichick was getting what so many feel like he deserved. And I watched some of that. And, I was at the game when I reported for ESPN when TCU and Sonny Dykes coached against Deion Sanders in his first FBS game, and they lost it was a high-scoring game. They lost by 3. So I always blame Sonny Dykes for what Deion Sanders became that year, the celebrity that he became at Colorado that year. Last night I was wondering at the end of the game, I wonder how many Super Bowls Sonny Dykes would have won if he had gone to the NFL, if Bill Belichick won 6.
Yikes. Ed.
Woo! This
is off the record, right?
Oh, yeah. Completely off the record.
It's just us. Just us.
Nobody watches. Nobody watches this podcast.
I always thought the Cowboys, they'd never drafted enough Bama players over the years. They never did. And I thought Derek Lassick got a raw into the deal.
Derek Lassick?
Yeah.
They have Trayvon Diggs, Tyler Booker.
Still not enough.
Well, I don't think those numbers are going to improve this year based on the 1 week performance.
No. We're not talking about the game Saturday. We're talking about I'm talking about years past.
Oh,
Ed, we know you got to run, but give us a Cowboys regular season win projection.
Well, they have a first-time head coach in Brian Schottenheimer who's deserving of his opportunity. They've got to win early, not only for player buy-in to Schottenheimer trying to create this different culture, and he wants Dak to be under center. He wants to be able to run the football. He wants to be physical. The back half of the schedule is virtually impossible. I mean, they play 4 games against the Eagles and Commanders combined, the 2 teams that played in the NFC Championship game last year. Then they play the AFC West, which had 3 teams to the playoffs last year, and the NFC Central or NFC North, which sent 3 teams to the playoffs last year. So they have a really challenging schedule. Even if they were a really good team, it'd be tough to win 10 or 11 games. I think the over-under gets interesting at 9 with the Cowboys.
Mm-hmm. All right. I love it. You guys
Vegas thinks it's 7.5, so do with that what you will.
Yeah, I'm taking the under.
Wow. Okay.
Ed, we really, thank you so much.
That sounds like a really bad season for me to cover.
Sorry, Ed.
You're the best, so seriously. We love having you out to shows. We love talking to you. You always text us and check in on us, and you're such a great friend to us, and taking the time out on probably the busiest part of the year for you, ramping up to the NFL season.
Absolutely.
We love you. Appreciate you. All the best to the family, and please come out and see us again soon, man. We miss you. So you're the best.
Next time you're within 100 miles, I'll be there. And if you send the private jet, there's no limit to how far I go.
Deal.
We're still working on it.
Thanks for having me on. Thanks for your friendship. Thanks for all the great opportunities to watch you guys do what you do so well and better than anybody else. Really appreciate your music. It hits me in the heart a lot. Fly over states when I'm sitting on the plane, going to wherever I'm going, man, that gets me.
That's that guy right there.
That's that guy right there. That's Neil. Neil wrote that. There he is.
You're my man.
Well done, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Love you. Thanks, buddy.
Ed.
Thanks, Ed.
Football is back, dude.
Woo.
Football is back, and Ed was awesome. He delivered all the goods that I was hoping he would.
Could have went on for a long time, but he's busy. A lot of stuff going on in Dallas.
Oh, my gosh. And just so people know, we're actually recording this right before the season opener for the Cowboys. So, yeah, he's a little busy.
Yeah.
This will air in about a week. But
what is your favorite storyline of this season so far?
Of the NFL season?
Yeah, there's a lot.
They'll get
You
to
got
us
Parsons.
later, Caleb.
Yeah, that's okay.
We'll get back to you,
Yeah, you
Caleb,
gotta
on
take a
Friday.
break.
Get to,
Neil, how's your lovely wife?
I'm gonna
No, seriously.
cuddle my Alabama football.
Well, we're
here
coming-
until
we're
they're
coming with
done
that.
That's
talking
good, though,
about.
because I don't know what the storyline is. Like,
Well, no, I'm just curious. Like, you got Parsons, which is it's going to be hard not to. I mean, that could turn Green Bay into. I mean,
it just fascinates me how the Cowboys are so relevant and yet they're just not good. They're okay to be relevant, which kind of made me ask that thing about Jerry, because I don't think he actually cares if they win a Super Bowl. He says he does, but how do you hire these coaches or keep these coaches or trade away your best players?
I actually think
I just don't.
I disagree with that. I think he wants to win more so bad it kills him. I just think he also thinks he knows the only way to do it. And
which is what?
Which is his way. Whether that means back in the day with the Herschel Walker thing, or whether it means not getting there with Parsons, he really believes that his way is the way.
But it's been, I know. What did they say? It's been 30 years since they've won, so it's obviously his way is not working.
Yeah, and if you've changed head coaches and players and everything, at some point, you might look and say, well, hey, could be me.
I don't see him
when you're on your eighth marriage, sometimes you should go,
It's possibly I have some
it's
flaws.
Possibly me.
But to be the GM and the owner and everything, and I think, obviously he loves the Cowboys and like the story from the oil to, as soon as he did that and got the $100 million, for that.
Oh yeah.
Oh, he said, I know exactly what I'm going to spend it on, which is impressive. So I think he loves the Cowboys and he wanted to, do everything and make it a family business. He said he was bound and determined, says this will be a family business or he wasn't going to do it, so he got all his kids involved and everything. So I think for him to let go of it would almost be like a death in the family for him to let go of that part of control. But I also know, just as a witness, being close to an artist or so, once they get to a point where they're not just the artist, but they want to be the artist. They want to be and they're writing the songs. They also want to produce. They want to engineer. They want to pick up a different instrument. Maybe the fiddle player pick it up and say, "Hey, no, do it like this," or maybe pick up a bass in their own hand and say, "No, I want it to sound like this." And to me, and witnessing that, it was kind of like, oh, that's not good because you can't be great at everything.
And when does that transformation take place? Like with an artist, or in the Jerry Jones thing, but relating it to music. Yeah, is it just to their head? Is it ego, or what is?
I don't know.
Ego. Every bit of it's ego. It always has been. Ego's always been the destruction of a corporation or a career. Always.
Yeah, or not being able to communicate. What they want, so much so that you have to pick it up and physically play an instrument that's not your instrument.
They don't listen to other creative minds. They think they're the only creative mind in the room.
Yeah,
that's when it gets dangerous.
Yeah. And that's when it starts going downhill. And, and then there's dissension. All that it's like a snowball effect.
Yeah.
Of well, I guess he thinks I guess he knows what he's talking about. I won't say anything anymore.
Yeah,
I got to tell you, not to interrupt that, just talking about that, really makes me think about Aldean and how he's never changed. That when we were making a record, he knows what his role is in there. He's very comfortable with it.
Listen, we don't need to build his ego on his show.
No, I'm just saying, but it is.
Actually, but he doesn't.
He does not.
But it is rare though, because we've been in a lot of situations producing people where it's like, wow, you're really going to tell us what to do? Okay.
Yeah.
But we're making a record with Jason, or even producing with him. He likes it when people have their lane, because he knows that that's their lane, and they probably know more about that lane.
That's part of any good business. So
that's
I think
a fact.
All of our points.
It's a fact.
But it disappears. That part of it disappears a lot, and with him it hasn't.
Which part? What disappears? What
well, just the part of letting people do their thing and trusting them.
Okay.
Yeah, once you're in charge, a lot of people, once they're in charge,
yep,
they go, "I'm in charge of everything."
Yeah,
and then all of a sudden they're an expert on everything.
Well, it
happens to a lot of people.
And that's why I agree. That's why I like what we were talking about on break. That's why I love co-writing. Because I don't have to try to get good at something I'm not good at. I just co-write with other people that are already gifted in that area. I don't have to worry about it. And then you focus on what makes, that you feel like you're gifted at, spend your time getting better at that.
And people you trust in that scenario too, because you might think something is right, but if Neil goes, no, it's this, you go, all right, I trust you. You know?
No, I'll say no. What about this? I won't say no. It's this.
But what I'm saying is that if you collaborate and work with people that you trust, you relinquish some of your ego because you also trust them to know best as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good point.
100%.
You think we should go talk to Jerry Jones? Should we have him on?
I would love to have Jerry on. He is.
That'd be great.
I mean, he is fascinating. And he has succeeded in making the Cowboys the most talked about team ever.
I have a question for him.
What you got?
So, with Aldine, we played halftime there 2006.
Yeah, it was a long
We played Hicktown, played halftime Thanksgiving Day. And met Jerry. Really nice. Remember that? He came down on the field.
It was awesome.
Seems like a really good dude, though.
Amazing. So we do our performance. We had an amazing time. And we get back to the bus, and it's Thanksgiving Day. My question to Jerry Jones on this podcast.
I know what you're going to say.
Thanksgiving Day, away from our families, we get on our bus, and there was just a big tin thing full of fried chicken. Nothing, just fried chicken. No, not even a.
No green beans, no mashed potatoes, gravy.
no turkey.
No turkey.
Oh,
And I'm thinking to myself, damn, like, this is the Dallas Cowboys, man. Like, it was like a catering thing of fried chicken with no sides.
How old was he at this time?
Dude, this
With
was
the
his
story?
06, so I mean,
06?
do the math.
I
I'm
don't
bad
know
at
how
it.
old he
Maybe
was.
his
Who else was on the bill?
vision was failing, and he thought
The bill, it was a
chicken
halftime. It was just us.
it's just y'all. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I thought maybe even a room with some turkey in it. But it shuttled us back to the bus. I'm like, wow.
It was an odd choice. They should have just went something completely different. You know, hamburgers.
Burgers, yeah.
Right,
but,
right,
I mean,
right.
yeah.
But
But fried chicken is
You can't blame that on Jerry. It's one of the minions.
no blaming Jerry.
Well, Jerry's in charge.
Yes, yeah, but
Jerry's
it's-
very hands-on.
He's not checking on the chicken. He's just not going to do it.
I don't
He doesn't
think
have
he's
time
checking
to
on
check
chicken
on
either.
your
but-
chicken.
Check on the chicken.
Say chicken on
I
your
won't
chicken
say
10
it.
times really fast.
He doesn't have time to check on your chicken. he doesn't.
I just thought that'd be the day.
Yeah, that's a good shirt. Check on your chicken.
I just figured that'd be the easiest day for any of that stuff. Just turkey. No matter
Yeah.
where you are, turkey.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my question, Jerry. If you're listening to the Try That podcast,
we need to have Ed.
what were you
ask
thinking
Jerry
about?
that.
you know what? Absolutely.
Yes.
What were you thinking, Jerry?
Anyway, all right.
Okay. Anything else? Should we wrap this thing up?
I think we wrap it. That was
pretty fun.
It was fun. You know,
fun.
I really liked him. He's so knowledgeable, and just hearing him talk about all the players that he was. Every time he says a name, like, oh yeah, I remember that player, but he just spitting them off. He knows that
Ed is like an
stuff inside and out.
encyclopedia.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember any of that stuff, even if I wrote it down. I wouldn't remember. I couldn't, and studied it for a week. I couldn't remember all.
And
that
and
Yeah.
when you hang
He's a
out with
sharp
him,
dude.
he doesn't just like talk to hear himself talk. Like we'll ask him something and he'll spit out the answer and that's it. And it's like he's not like name dropping or he's just telling these incredible stories.
Yeah.
And you're like, tell us more, Ed.
It's like when I told him that the Cowboys didn't draft enough Alabama players, and he rattled off like four
Yeah, he did.
in the past.
He
And I'm going,
and your point was valid. You know, they said there probably should have been more based on all the incredible players that have come through.
Right.
You know.
But the fact that he knew the Alabama
That he knew
players
them.
that
But he
were
knew
there.
them. He just rattled them off. He didn't have to think. He
He
didn't
wasn't going to
stop.
let you win that point.
No,
He's
I
gonna,
wouldn't.
you know,
No.
That's awesome. We love him. He's such a good dude, and his wife Jill is awesome as well. Let's thank Patriot Mobile.
Yes.
Let's also thank eSpaces.
.com.
Hey, we need to tell eSpaces though it's a little warm in here. We would like a little bit cooler.
Our vent is not working.
I've talked to Pirtle.
Trying to sweat us out.
He watches, right? Does he watch this thing?
I don't. Yeah, Pirtle
don't
has
know.
to watch. It's his building.
It's
He
his
has to
building.
watch.
Well,
his floor.
get us a little air conditioning.
I think since we have a unique deal, I don't know if we complain too much, you know, on little things like that.
But we
you know?
do love
Yeah.
the studio.
It's great.
Maybe just some air conditioning.
I'll talk to Pirtle.
Original Glory.
I'll play him around the.
Now
golf
the
course.
OG.
The OG.
The OG.
And they were the OG. They were the first one that's been with us, and of course, we're very appreciative of them. If you're watching on YouTube, leave us a comment, leave us a review, give us 5 stars, download the episode, follow us on X, follow us on Insta at Try That Podcast. what other social platform? Are we on Facebook?
The old talk.
Are we on
the
Facebook?
talk?
We're on the talk.
OnlyFans.
Got to be on the talk.
OnlyFans.
Jim's OnlyFans
I think
account.
we're on OnlyFans. Yeah.
We on Facebook?
Yeah, I think we're on MySpace.
We are on Facebook.
Facebook. Yeah,
actually.
you're right.
Facebook.
Not MySpace.
We're on Facebook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So go follow us. We want to thank all you guys for listening. As always, happy football season.
Go long, Tully.
Go Vols.
Oh,
Cheers.
look at this. And there we go.
Oh.
This is the Try That in a Small Town podcast. Thanks for listening.